Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast. I'm your host Ashwin. I'm joined by Varun as DJ is still in Australia, kind of gallivanting around. He's watched a couple of good matches. Varun, it's a completely different feeling as we go live and then record this for our listeners. Recording after India loses in the last over versus after India wins on the last ball, right? It's a little bit of a different energy.
Oh yeah, totally different. In fact, India, as we're recording, has just lost to South Africa and are no longer top of the group. And it's been mixed, right, from that high of last week to now this. But as I had predicted, uh, if India had lost to South Africa, the whole of Twitter is going to go crazy saying in 2011 India lost to South Africa as well. So yeah, you never know.
Yeah, absolutely. Interestingly, in 2011, India also lost to South Africa with 2 balls to spare. So not only did
Oh.
it happen, but exactly the same kind of margin of victory. But a lot has happened this week. We were with you all last after India just defeated Pakistan. There have been a lot of matches. There have been a lot of missed matches, right? Like, Varun, kind of frustrating about the rain, and we'll double click on some of them. But I don't know. Obviously, the organizers don't control the rain, and there's more than there's a lot more than we'd like. But pretty frustrating for some teams. If you're I don't know, if you're Australia, you're feeling a little bit frustrated. If you're New Zealand, you're feeling a little bit frustrated. Just disappointing to see a lot of matches
If
washed out.
you're England, you not only has the match been washed out, you also lost because of DLS, right? So
Yeah.
it's very tough, and somehow it seems to have affected the other group much more, which is wide open. And I think we're going to talk about the two different groups today later on and where people stand. But it's been disappointing, and you don't expect a World Cup to happen, all the teams to be there, all the viewers ready, a great kickoff to the tournament, and then suddenly you're 3, 4, 5 games affected by rain. It's been too much. It's honestly a bit unacceptable. But yeah, like we said, nobody controls it, so it's hard.
Yeah, I mean, so we have a lot to double click on. Let's start a little bit with this match that just finished. So we're going to start with India, South Africa, just from a recency standpoint. And then in the second half of the show, we'll go into the Pakistan, India, and South Africa match. Varun, can you hear me again? Oh, wait, you're on mute this time. I'm sorry, I got an internet notification running. I think that's the beauty of trying to go live, right? Yeah, anyway, if you can hear me again, we're going to try to continue and pick back up where we left off, and hopefully we can clean this up and edit for those of you listening later. Varun, walk me through that first innings, right? Rohit wins the toss, bats first. 133 was never going to be enough. In playing in Perth, it's a quick bowler's paradise. So yeah, walk me through it. What happened?
Yeah, a lot of people are questioning should Rohit have chased, and because India's done well chasing in the recent few games against this South African pace attack. I think there was always going to be a risk of us for losing 3 or 4 quick wickets. I'm not going to say 15 for three, but losing 3 or 4 quick wickets. So I think it's better to kind of bat first, um, and lose that early wickets if you have to, and then kind of build again. Versus when you're chasing that pressure of even 7, 8 runs and over, and you're 30 for one, or 30 for four, or 20 for four. So look, I don't blame the toss. I do blame the 11 a little bit. So what Rohit said is Deepak Huda is coming in to strengthen the batting. Makes sense because of South Africa's pace bowling attack, but overall not strong enough according to me. Deepak Huda is not a number 5 or 6 batsman, so a little bit messy. Okay, that India squad is starting to show some cracks, especially as you move past the first 11. But to me, it's just the openers, man. I just don't know what to do. Rohit is not looking that comfortable. Rahul is looking all out of sorts. They're both be playing tentative. They both have no confidence. And anytime your openers don't give you a start, you're going to be struggling. I think it's just as simple as that.
Yeah, so let's talk about a couple of things you said, right? One, let's start with Deepak Huda. I understand the choice, right? Again, I agree with you. We play him at five. He's not naturally number five. But Akshar Patel would have struggled, right? I don't think Akshar Patel was the right bowler for this pitch, and especially given how many lefties the South African lineup has. Even South Africa dropped a spinner to bring in an extra quick, and with Hardik bowling pretty consistently well, and it felt like a reasonable bet. The question is, should Rishabh Pant have come in? And actually, somebody just asked that in the chat for those of you listening live. But Sumit asks, should Pant have played instead of Huda? We didn't bowl him anyway. So thoughts on that? Is it just that peace of mind that Rohit gets by having somebody who could bowl even if you don't need to use him?
Yeah, I mean, in that game against Pakistan, they lost and they didn't have a sixth bowler, right? Since then, Pakistan has been playing Mohammad Wasim Jr., who has done very well. So that sixth bowler makes a big difference. I I think, I mean, let's quickly go through the innings and then we'll talk
Okay.
about some of the cracks or the weaknesses, right? Because you asked if Punch should come in. I think we need to talk about the top seven and then answer that question. So Virat Kohli, look, he can do no wrong right now, but he just, as I was watching, he just got caught in that short ball trap. I knew it was coming, not fourth ball, not fifth ball. One of these deliveries is going to come. And that's exactly what happened. And Rabada was just standing there waiting for it.
It was an unbelievable catch, by the way. If you
Yeah.
watch the replay, which unfortunately in my broadcast they didn't show super well, he was at fine leg and he basically started running full speed along the rope as the ball went off the edge, and he made it look so easy. But it was an unbelievable catch. Not to say it wasn't Kohli's fault for getting that edge, but yeah.
Yeah, but like I said, it was being planned. It was being set up. You expect somebody like Kohli to counter that. Sky, fantastic. I mean, the more we talk about him, the more I get excited about what he's going to do. Ravi Shastri said it at the end of the last match. Get this guy into Test cricket as well, and just throw him in and see what he does. His batting style is amazing. His temperament is amazing. His confidence is amazing. So yeah, Sky, the perfect number four, India's solution to a lot of issues we've had in the past. And then after that, man, Deepak Huda kind of floating in the middle there. I don't think it's his fault, but today, when we looked at his three balls that he faced, he had no clue of what was happening. He
Yeah,
had
even
no
the one defense
idea.
he did looked
Yeah,
very
he
lopsided. Yeah.
played three balls total and he got out on the third ball. He had no idea, and that gave me very little confidence. I don't know if he's ever been to Australia before. I don't know if he's played on that. A lot of our guys have not even played on this kind of a wicket ever. That's
Mm-hmm.
why India chose Perth for the warm up matches, because they said, let's be as close as we can. In fact, at the toss, I think Rohit said, but we weren't here, we were at the Waka. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a totally different pitch. So Deepak Huda, not the right call for me. Hardik Pandya walks into any side, I would say. And then Dinesh Karthik, right? Like my friend and I were watching the match and we were talking about how, Sky has to take apart Maharaj because he's the only recognized batsman left. And then we both looked at each other and said, hey, wait a minute.
Mm-hmm.
DK is a recognized batsman. You can't discount him so early on in the tournament. You can't have a situation where DK and Sky are batting and you're just like, DK, just defend, just stay. Doesn't work like that. That's what somebody like Ashwin or Bhuvi's role had to be. And so I think we need to open the question: what value is DK really adding? The one time he had to show up in a crunch game, he got stumped, and Ashwin showed more presence of mind. Today he had 10, 12 overs to bat, could not do it. So yes, Rishabh Pant has that X factor. The way Rahul, Huda, DK are batting right now, I can't see Pant playing worse than them. And so I do believe he needs to come in. I believe there needs to be a little bit of a reshuffle in the order, but he needs to come in.
So let me ask you. You shared a lot, right? And I want to make sure we unpack a couple things. Let's just quickly go back to the top of the order. I think no debate about Rahul. He's been struggling. What is happening with Rohit Sharma? You look on paper and you say, and by the way, I've had him as my fantasy captain multiple matches in a row. And the last match he got me a 50. And then it was at 2 a.m. my time, so I didn't watch the Netherlands match live. But then you look into actually how he batted. It was a horrendous innings, to be honest, right? Like, it was scratchy. He didn't seem like he was making good contact. He managed to get there because he's just that talented. But obviously, you're not going to change your skipper unless you're South Africa.
Yeah,
That's a different debate.
exactly. Which is why
But
you
so
don't
Rohit
talk about.
Rohit is going to keep opening.
Yeah, has to, right? I mean, that's a it's a nice question, but you knew the answer to that before you asked the
Well, no,
question,
I
right?
guess is Rohit's struggle a reason to then change Rahul more, right? Is what I mean. It's
Yeah.
not that Rahul should suffer for Rohit, but if the other opener is struggling, then Rahul doesn't have as long a leash. If Rohit is looking great, then Rahul may be able to bat his way back into form, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's too late for Rahul. Like, three matches are done. If you lose one more, you could not make the semis, right? Like last week, we were not sitting here thinking that the way this format is built, you win one of your two big games in the whatever group phase, and you're through. What happens, man? What happens if Bangladesh is a close game? It's not that simple. If Rahul is as talented as everyone believes, then like they did in ODIs, maybe move him, right? Maybe move him down the order. Do something different. Bring Pant up top. Play Rahul at five. Do something different. You can't just keep expecting somebody with so much talent to keep playing. So I think that's my view.
Right. Let's quickly talk about the chase, and then we'll talk kind of the rest of the World Cup and stuff, right? Honestly, not a lot to write home about. It was an interesting start where, Bhuvi and Arshdeep actually looked unbelievable in the first few overs. And at one point, 3 for 2 after 9 balls, with Arshdeep picking up wickets on his first and third ball, including an LBW that he almost didn't review, but Rohit did review. And then that Markram Miller partnership, you could just tell when they were in there. Like, I mean, Varun, just walk me through, like, how good was Markram and Miller, right? I think Markram looked a little better, and then Miller, you realize, batted about a run a ball for his first 30, which is very uncharacteristic for him. But he stepped up and took the team home.
Yeah, but that's what you need to do, right? You need to adapt to the situation. If you're a six hitter, but your team is in trouble, you adapt, you play out, you know the value of being there for 20 overs. And I think that's what Sky tried to do as well for India, right? He kept the momentum going. He made a run a ball, more than that. But you just have to adapt your game. And you always know that, like with somebody like Markram, that he's going to find a way to stay there and just keep pushing the scoreboard. And Miller was fantastic because, let's be honest, India did have them under pressure a couple of times, right? At the start, Arshdeep was fantastic. And I think special mention to him. He's been the best bowler of this World Cup for India. He's
He's
kept
our highest
Harshal
wicket
Patel
taker too,
out.
yeah.
Yeah, he's kept Harshal Patel out. He's getting the wickets while Bhuvi's building the pressure. To me, like, he's bowling better than Shami. He's swinging it both ways. The batsmen have no clue. So well done to Arshdeep. But after that spell, when the ball stops moving that much, you just realize you need to run a ball. That's not hard. It just needs two level headed guys to build a partnership. And that's exactly what South Africa did. So, yeah, we'd been talking about South Africa at the start of this, saying they might narrowly miss out. But you know what? They could be in a situation where they beat India and Pakistan and take that confidence into the semifinals.
Let's talk in that chase. Honestly, not a lot else to talk about, right? Great partnership. A little bit of discussion potentially about Rohit's bowling, and would you have, like, his use of his bowlers rather, and would you have left Ashwin till later, etc. Ashwin ended up coming on, giving 2 sixes, and yeah, just ended up perishing. But let's talk a little bit about the fielding, right? If I remember, if I'm counting it correctly, a very simple drop catch by Kohli in the outfield, what should have been a very simple run out by Rohit. And there was at least one other run out. Am I missing anything? Like, what happened? These are some of our better fielders too, right? We have weak fielders. Let's be clear in this lineup. Kohli is not typically one of them. So is that where we lost the game today? And of course, the batter should have made more and all that. But given the work Arshdeep did early on, is the fielding where we lost the game?
I don't know. Again, it was never enough. We needed 20 more runs. You had to touch 150. So I'm not 100% sure of that because people like Wayne Parnell and all can also go. But yes, we had a much better chance. Yes, we would have been in the game a lot more. And you're right, we don't see Kohli missing catches often. We see Kohli pulling off stunners more often than not. So that shocked everyone. I mean, Ashwin was just in disbelief. Kohli was smiling because he couldn't believe it. And then, like a few balls later, you get an opportunity where Rohit Sharma just had to kind of lob the ball to the stumps. In the middle, he realized how much time he had, and I
Yeah, he
think maybe
waited a
that
little. Yeah,
confused him. He waited, he moved faster. I mean, he's no Jaunty Rhodes, right? Jaunty Rhodes, everyone
would have
remembers where he
run and
went
done a full.
flying horizontal.
Even
Yeah,
MS would
even
have done that full
MS.
length
Yeah.
dive. Shout out to
So
DJ who's
those,
not here that we brought up MS on the show. Yeah,
yeah, but yeah, those two are hard, man, because it's not only who you're getting out, it's the period of play in which you're taking those catches or wickets. Because what would have happened is you could have brought Ashwin on immediately after that wicket had fallen, make it a 5-6 run over, as opposed to getting hit for sixes. And by the way, nothing wrong that Ashwin did. It was just the ball did nothing for him.
yeah.
They were just hitting sixes so easily. The ball was going nowhere.
Yeah, I mean, I think well said. Disappointing loss for Team India. A lot to dissect potentially on where do we go from here. But Varun, let's take a quick break. We'll come back, talk a little bit about the rest of the World Cup, and then wrap up with some listener questions and what we expect to go from here for Team India. So don't go anywhere. We will be right back. Welcome back to the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast on the 99.94 DM network. Varun, unfortunate loss for Team India, but on the back of two wins, probably not super worried about our ability to make the semis. To your point, anything can happen. This is a World Cup, but I want to talk through the points table really quickly. So let's just go from in the first group in order, right? If you're South Africa, massive win over Bangladesh by over 100 runs. And then a win today against India. You feel pretty good. Honestly, you feel a little hard done by leaving a point on the table against Zimbabwe if you backed yourself to get two. Pretty solid chance to qualify from here, knowing one of their games is against Netherlands, and if they win that, that'll be 7 points, which should be good enough to qualify.
Yeah, absolutely. I would feel very good if I was South Africa right now. I think topping the group will be additional incentive, because when you hear who's topping the other group, you'll be sure India don't want to play them. So topping the group is a big bonus for South Africa. I think the way I look at it is Pakistan, even if they win their next two, can maximum get to 6 points, right? So if South Africa beat Netherlands, which is very likely, I think they're through, and that's just a huge thing for them, because even in our World Cup preview, we had kind of said that they have a chance, but Pakistan is going to make it. So great for them, top of the table. I think that Pakistan South Africa game that's coming up on Thursday is going to be a cracker. It's probably going to be one of the best matches of the tournament so far. It is two powerhouse pace bowling lineups against each other. And yeah, I just hope that wicket is good, because it could be one of the best games.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. Those two quick bowling lineups, both in green, are going to be absolutely unbelievable. Right. I'm going to hold on India. India is currently second in the points table with Bangladesh and Zimbabwe to face. So we'll wrap up the rest of the teams and then come back. Bangladesh, right? Decent win against Netherlands, decent win against Zimbabwe. So you're sitting there saying, hey, I got two wins under my belt with a massive loss to South Africa. So net run rate isn't good. And by the way, what a close game, Bangladesh Zimbabwe. We're not going to double click on every single one, but and again, a very close game. But with India and Pakistan to come, Bangladesh is really needs to kind of pull up their socks, right? They haven't looked great, and I think 4 points from their first three games is a little bit generous.
Yeah, it is. You're right. I think it's not the fact that Bangladesh can't cause an upset. I think it is amazing that after 15 years, Bangladesh winning would still be called an upset. I think that is what is
Yeah,
most frustrating to me about Bangladesh, is that where is that growth, right? Like how do you come out of always being somebody who is going to cause an upset versus India and Pakistan actually being scared to play because it's not a guaranteed win. And don't get me wrong, I don't think it is a guaranteed win, but you're right. The way they are batting, and Ashwin, I know you pick these guys as your trump players in fantasy. They just inspire no confidence, right? Like they're top 4 or 5 batsmen just don't seem to be doing the job. Shakib seems like, I'll be very honest, I didn't know Shakib was captain before this World Cup started.
I
I
mean, who knows?
had
He's got
no
banned and like he's been in it. It's been a
yeah.
little weird.
So he looks like he's just showing up to do the job that his country needs him to do. I don't know how interested he is. I don't know how interested the rest of these guys are. So yeah, I think that sums up Bangladesh. Not looking promising, and I think 4 out of 3 games, you're right, it is very generous.
Right. Let's talk about Pakistan. A big blow to their chances. Still not mathematically out, but very difficult now, having seen India lose to South Africa. The math just, and again, you never want to, we talked this so many times every time we'd have a tournament, you never want your chances to be reliant on three other results going exactly that way, exactly your way, but that happens. And so, but in the specific game I just want to talk a little bit about is the Pakistan Zimbabwe game. I get the sense you have watched the highlights for that game probably as much as you watched India Pakistan. I mean, both matches, India versus Pakistan and Zimbabwe versus Pakistan, they came up short on basically the last ball. You want to walk me through that last kind of 2 or 3 balls? I think they needed 3 runs off 3 balls. Then they went dot ball, wicket, and then obviously they weren't able to convert. But you want to walk me through that really quick? That was great.
Yeah, it was a fantastic match. Zimbabwe made 130. When you think about it, similar to what India made today.
Mm-hmm.
And Pakistan are facing the same issue as India. The openers are not clicking. I think their middle order is actually quite good. I like Shan Masood, I like Iftikhar Ahmed, and I like Shadab Khan. I think all of them can bat. But it came down to that same issue. They kept getting starts, but they couldn't go on. Sikandar Raza, man, special shout out to him. Turned the game again. Thanked Ricky Ponting for mentioning him in a video on that day. 3 wickets,
And he has a
25.
deal with his captain apparently that every time he gets mad at
Yeah,
the match, his captain has to buy him a watch. So he's at
oh,
3
yeah,
now,
yeah.
which is good.
And so it was just fantastic. He turned that game where suddenly it became believable. Even then, in the last 2 overs, Pakistan hit a 6, Pakistan hit a 4, and then they just couldn't convert. And you could see the desperation on Nawaz's face because he had, well, not completely his fault, but that game was lost in his over.
Mm-hmm.
And this was his chance to redeem himself. And Babar Azam said that, you are my match winner and stuff like that. You could see that. And he just kind of couldn't clear the 30-yard circle, got caught. And Bangladesh and Zimbabwe at that point suddenly pulled up their socks. They realized they can smell a win here. And let's just talk about that last ball. Shaheen Afridi comes out, hits it down the ground. Who does it go to? Their best player, Raza. Raza picks it up, as a lot of people would do, but has the presence of mind to throw it to the keeper because Shaheen is clearly the slower one and has been back in his crease. Shaheen actually doesn't run as fast because of his own injury. The keeper, for some reason, feels like he wants to make a match of it, fumbles it, grabs it just in time. As he's hitting the stumps, you could see Shaheen's bat flying across the TV screen, but they managed to get him out, and that was it. A historic win, virtually knocking Pakistan out, and Zimbabwe kept their hopes alive. It was a great game.
Absolutely unbelievable. Really, really well said. Yeah, just incredible. When he fumbled that, and you're like, oh my gosh, what is actually happening? Everybody's hearts were in their mouth for that split second. Arun, we are getting a question. I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but there's a question come in a little bit about the last ball of also what happened in the Bangladesh Zimbabwe game. And I don't know if you got a chance to watch it. I just caught up on followed it, but it was absolutely bizarre. Right at the Gabba, I think they needed 5 off of 1 ball, and he ends up bowling a no ball. And it's not a no ball because of overstepping or because of height or anything. It's a no ball because the wicketkeeper grabs, and this is like a rookie move, but the wicketkeeper collects the ball in front of the stumps. And it was just scenes, right? It ended up that Bangladesh won, but it was just scenes. And you think to yourself, if that had resulted in Bangladesh losing, it would have been riots, right?
Yeah, I mean, Shakib would have definitely come and kicked the stumps and pulled them out. And I mean, I could totally, I was hoping that happens. But yeah, and look, it's not the keeper's fault. The last ball, you're about to win a close game. He collected it maybe an inch ahead of what he normally would have. It was just that excitement, but it's a good lesson, right? Don't get ahead of yourself because everything is going to be reviewed. So it was a very funny scene because Bangladesh celebrated, Zimbabwe were dejected, and then it kind of felt like Lagan, right, where the umpire put out his hand and
You get to go
Zimbabwe
back
had
on.
to walk back on. Except in this time, there was no 6 of the last ball; it was just straight to the keeper again. So a lot happened. I haven't seen this happen before, where the teams walk off and then come back in.
Yeah.
It's a funny thing because you also tend to do a DRS review as the last wicket also, right? And teams are
Mhm.
celebrating, and Jimmy Anderson is famous for this. No matter what happens, the other team has won the game, but he'll still go for a review. what if in that review something like this happens, right? It's just it's crazy. It was difficult. The Bangladesh you could see the Bangladesh team was very, very like worried or skeptical as they were walking back, because anything can happen, especially of a free hit. But yeah, overall great game again.
Yeah, great finish. All right, Varun, let's talk a little bit about the other group. You mentioned this that they're curtailed by rain more than Group Two or the group we've been talking about. Right at the top, you said this, right? And things could still change, but whoever wins will want to avoid this unbelievable team that everybody seems to write off, and they always seem to bring their A game to the ICC tournaments. And of course, I'm talking about New Zealand, right? Sri Lanka was 5 for 3, I think, and you had all of India commiserating a little bit with Bolt and Saudi getting them to 5 for 3. But New Zealand, with 5 points from their first 3 games, you're sitting there thinking they only got a point out of Afghanistan, and they ended up getting 2 against Australia, 2 against Sri Lanka. England and Ireland to play. England is going to be a big game because England is in second place in that group. You're backing New Zealand to qualify at this point, right? They just need one more win, I think.
Yeah, and again, we were so wrong in our preview. The first about South Africa, second about New Zealand. I don't know what happens. I just make a mental note. If I ever on the podcast say that New Zealand is not going to make it to the next round of an ICC, just pause and say you are wrong, right?
Yeah,
Because
done.
something happens. They just show up there. I think Kane Williamson is the weakest player. They have had Conway and Finn Allen give them a fantastic start. I think special shout
Except
to
except when I
Theekshana.
use my wicketkeeper booster, they both
Yeah,
get single
same.
digit score. Yeah.
And special mention to Theekshana there for just bowling phenomenally to these two batsmen.
Mhm.
He just changed the game. And then Glenn Phillips, a guy who I haven't seen too much of, just comes out and hits 100 and celebrates as if like, I think somebody on commentary said this, as if it's like some WWF match. Like he just felt like he won the gold world championship belt or something.
By the way,
It was
highlight of Glenn
phenomenal.
Phillips's innings is when he was on the non-strikers end. I don't know if you
Yeah.
saw this. And instead of like cheating or trying to take advantage, he was down on his knee, like kind of the people are saying it's from his time in the Jamaica Talawas and the association with Usain Bolt and stuff. But he was at the non-strikers end, ready, like crouched down like a sprinter, and that's totally legal if you want to try to leave as soon as you're allowed. Anyway, I thought it was pretty funny.
Yeah, very interesting, and I'm sure you're going to see a lot more of it too.
Mhm.
Just hope it doesn't backfire on your partner because he doesn't have that kind of a start. But that was very interesting. But superb, man. And then of course you saw Bolt and Southie come in, do what they do best. They've got a great team. They're going to make it to the semis. I have no doubt. And the day they need Kane, if Kane shows up, man, they're remember they were in the finals of every ICC tournament since 2015. So it's not a
Absolutely
joke, and this
unbelievable.
is pretty much the same team. No, they've also catered for their own weaknesses in the T20 lineup, right? You don't see people like Guptill, you don't see people like Ross Taylor, who's now retired. You just see these newer, younger guys who are going to make that difference with Kane Williamson bringing them together. So excellent.
Right. Lots else going on in that group. Sri Lanka will be disappointed. Afghanistan has, unfortunately had rain
They just
impact
haven't
2 of their
played.
games. They haven't really played, and then they lost their first to England.
Yeah.
So that's been a little bit disappointing. The one I want to really talk about, the last match I want to talk about, is England versus Ireland, right? Because England would have backed themselves to win, although funnily enough, they have not beaten Ireland in a World Cup in at least a long time, etc. So lots to unpack there. But Varun, when you're chasing not a huge total, right? How much did Ireland made 157, and yeah, like what? Imagine falling 5 runs short of DLS. Thinking you had the batting and you had Moyne at the crease who could have potentially accelerated a little bit more. You had Liam Livingstone out at the crease, and then when the rain came down, England was just 5 runs behind. Like, do you blame England basically for not keeping tabs on what the par score was and staying ahead of it, knowing that rain was around?
100%. Can you blame anyone else? Like Moin
No, I mean,
Ali
is it
hit
bad luck
12.
versus? I mean, like you could
I
say it's
don't
bad
think
luck that
it's
DLS just played a part, but like you should have known better.
Yeah, you should have known better. I don't think it's anything to do with that. I think Malan played a stupid shot because obviously as DLS, anyone who knows cricket knows that DLS jumps the minute wickets fall, right? The requirement. So Malan got out. They then had like a couple of dot ball singles, and then the second Moeen Ali realized it's about to rain, he hit 12 of 3 balls. So you could have been going
Could have
at
been
this
doing better
pace.
overall.
All you need to do in DLS is just have the guy come in to change your gloves or drinks, tell you what that score is or what that number is and be ahead of it. That is all you need to do, especially when you know rain is playing such a big part in all of these games. So yes, I blame England for it. Yes, it is a historic win for Ireland, and it's just thrown that group wide open. You can't help but think that it was made for Australia, this match. But it's this group is hard, man. It's not easy to be in a situation where you've had every team except Sri Lanka have a no result.
Yeah, I mean, it's very disappointing. I think England Australia probably would have been the biggest game and would have determined who goes in. And now either side, whoever doesn't make it, will be feeling like it's because they didn't get a chance to play enough. So anyway, very disappointing. Varun, there's so much more we can talk about, but we're going to start wrapping up this week's episode. I want to just wrap up by coming back to Team India. So 2 games left, right? I think first we go to Bangladesh and then wrap up our group stage with Zimbabwe, who've looked like the dark horse. Let me start with a couple of quick things, right? Question came in. Do we think there's going to be any forced changes? So we saw DK, we talked about this already, but go off with what looked like a lower back injury and Pant come on to keep. Do you think there's any force change in that? Does that save Rahul a little if Pant has to come in for DK? Do you make 2 changes at once? What do you predict? Who do you predict is going to walk on against Bangladesh?
Yeah, I think Pant will walk in for DK. I think that is the only change I see. And
Do you think
between
Akshar
Huda and
comes back?
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
sorry.
possible because I think you need to have that sixth bowler. So I think India is not going to take a risk, especially in a game you don't want to lose, right? Because it'll determine. So your India's going to have a sixth bowler for all our listeners. I think that is what is going to happen. But I do think Pant will walk in for DK.
So Rahul stays.
Yeah, Rahul stays, man.
Yeah, I mean,
Unfortunately.
unfortunately, I think you may be right. I think it comes down to injury for me. If DK is fit, I actually think Pant walks in for Rahul and they give DK another shot because you could argue DK hasn't had that many balls to face. Yes, he's looked scratchy, but Rahul has looked scratchy despite having a lot of time out there, and DK is in the team for a very specific role. Right. We've covered a lot. There's a lot more double, triple headers ahead of us. Varun, any final predictions? Are we done seeing upsets in this tournament? Is Zimbabwe going to kind of eke out one more win? I guess they're done against the big teams. Is Bangladesh going to come and surprise India, or Netherlands going to surprise South Africa, or do you think it's pretty predictable from here on?
I think for the India group, it's pretty predictable. It's just which out of India and South Africa hit number one. So, like I said, Pakistan South Africa is the game to watch out for me in that one. The other one is New Zealand versus England because England is going to come so hard on that for that game. It's not even funny. Australia has an easier path because they play Afghanistan and Ireland next. So they have an easier path, but 2 games to look out for this week are going to be amazing.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Very well said. I think it's going to be very exciting. Hopefully, rain stays away. If you aren't playing with us yet, join us on our fantasy league. The links are on our Twitter and Discord. We're having some fun playing there. Although I had a great week one, I've had a less than ideal week two. And yeah, Varun, I guess we'll be back next week. By the time we come back here, India should have played both their next games against Bangladesh and Zimbabwe, and we should know what's happening for the semifinals. So Varun, this has been fun. Thanks for taking the time. I know it's late for you after the game's end. For our listeners, tweet us at One Tip One Hand, Facebook, Instagram, all at One Tip One Hand. If you're watching this on YouTube, I should have said it earlier. Please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. We have a great time trying to put these out every single week. And as always, we will be back next week. This has been the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast.